geopolitical and economic organization mainly consisted of 5 initial or original members: the Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand, Singapore, and Malaysia. Brunei Darussalam joined in 1984. Then towards the late part of the 1990s, there was ASEAN expansion to include the CLMV countries. Those are Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam. So, which brings us to the 10 current ASEAN member states. Now, there's always this, reference whenever talking about ASEAN on the so-called ASEAN way, which is comprised of essentially two principles, which are consensus in decision making and non-interference in the domestic affairs of other members. So, up from its inception in 1967 up until now, it has been the guiding principle of ASEAN. Now, in 2008, some might say that a watershed has happened in ASEAN history, which is finally, after 40 years of existence, ASEAN has adopted a charter. This charter is legally binding. It's a document that that is legally binding in all ASEAN member states. It ensures a political commitment at a higher level. It also provides for new and enhanced commitments in ASEAN. It gives ASEAN a legal personality and a new legal framework. And it calls for the establishment of new ASEAN bodies. The thrust of the ASEAN since the adoption of the ASEAN Charter, and perhaps even earlier, this began, I think, in the early 2000s, maybe 2002 or 2003, has been the establishment of an ASEAN community by 2015. Now, this ASEAN community is essentially comprised of 3 pillars. These are the political security pillar, the economic pillar, and the socio-cultural pillar. And since the adoption of the ASEAN Charter in 2008, the thrust or the slogan of ASEAN has been, don't laugh at me, this seems like a motherhood statement, and it is. Okay, it's one vision, one identity, and one caring and sharing community. So that's the guiding principle of ASEAN since the adoption of the Charter. Now, at the political security level, ASEAN has committed to the following. First, mutual interests and interdependence among ASEAN peoples, common objectives and shared destiny, commitment to the principles of democracy, the rule of law and good governance, respect for and protection and promotion of human rights, peace-oriented values, a nuclear weapons-free Southeast Asia, and a shared commitment and collective responsibility in enhancing regional peace, security, and prosperity. This is under the Article 2, Section 2 of the ASEAN Political Security Community Blueprint, which is the main ASEAN document that is, I think, the closest we can have to a security policy framework. Now, the ASEAN Political Security Community is actually, it has several related bodies and organs to it. These are the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights, or ICHR. There's also the ASEAN Ministerial Meeting, which is the meeting of various foreign ministers and in ASEAN. There's the ASEAN Regional Forum, or ARF, where ASEAN leaders meet with different leaders of different regions in the world. There's also the ASEAN Defense Ministers Meeting. There's the ASEAN Law Ministers Meeting, and the ASEAN Ministerial Meeting on Transnational Crime. This particular meeting deals with or gathers together people from the police and border controls people to work out common concerns. Now, the ASEAN Political Security Community Blueprint, this is the overarching security framework, the closest I think that we have to a security policy framework. It's stated in the blueprint that ASEAN subscribes to a comprehensive approach to security, which acknowledges the interwoven relationship of political, economic, and social, cultural, and environmental dimensions of development. It promotes renunciation of aggression and of the threat or use of force or other actions in any manner inconsistent with international law and reliance on peaceful settlements of disputes. Now, I was just talking to Parifki earlier regarding this, because I went through this document, the Political Security Community Blueprint. I did a search on it, SSR, and there is no mention of SSR at all. So essentially, just to correct the document that has been being circulated here, we technically could not speak of an ASEAN SSR strategy because, SSR is not mentioned. There is no mention of SSR in any ASEAN document, the present or even the past ones. Essentially, any security document that has been issued by ASEAN, it is now trumped by this one, the Political Security Community Blueprint. Now, this made me think that the discourse really on SSR in Southeast Asia is essentially being kept alive by the policy research community in ASEAN. And the ASEAN Political Security Community Council, which oversees the implementation of the blueprint, it is made up of diplomats who may have different ways of looking at security from, say, civil society organizations or security practitioners. So, yeah, SSR in ASEAN is being kept alive by like-minded policy people, policy research organizations, and advocates. One of these is the ASEAN ISIS, or the ASEAN Institutes for Strategic and International Studies. This is a group of research and policy organizations which ISDS is a member of. We have different counterparts in every ASEAN state. Some of them, though, mostly from the CLMV countries. They are not independent. They are normally associated with the foreign ministries. So there. Informal networking is also very prevalent in popularizing the discourse on SSR in Southeast Asia. People, academics, at their personal capacities have been doing this. Parifki is one of them. Professor Hernandez from ISDS. Also, in Indonesia, Pa Yusuf Wanandi, Dr. Rizal Sukma in Thailand, Professor Suchit Bumdongpan. So these people are essentially the popularizers of SSR who, if they have time or if they have opportunities to interface with people from government, they would introduce SSR activities or the notion of SSR to them. So there. Now, just to give you an update on openings for SSR in Southeast Asia. This is at least from our end. First, we have ASEAN is supposed to have the ASEAN Charter review this year, 2013, because it's stated there in the ASEAN Charter that 5 years after the implementation and the adoption of the Charter, it should be up for review. So whether or not there is a need for an SSR body in ASEAN to be established, this could be discussed there. The question is, or the challenge is that the creation of ASEAN bodies usually depends on whether the issues these bodies will be working on are identified in the ASEAN Charter. And SSR is not identified. So that's a challenge if there is really a need for an SSR body, because I think the only two SSR bodies, the only two ASEAN bodies that have been that have been established after the charter are the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights and the ASEAN Commission on Women and Children. I think we have a commission on migrant workers is underway, but still not formalized. And second, another opening for SSR is probably the continuing democratization of ASEAN member states, most notably the incremental democratization of Myanmar. Now this would actually depend on whether the generals would be open to discussion. I think ISDS, our organization, and CSIS from Indonesia, the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Indonesia, we have a project brewing up. It's still in its planning stage regarding interfacing with the generals in Myanmar. If they are open to the idea of SSR, and probably if there is a training component that would be included in this, we would let the asset know. Third and last opening for SSR in ASEAN would be ASEAN expansion. The last member to be admitted to ASEAN was, I think in 1999, Vietnam, I think. Timor-Leste has applied for ASEAN membership in 2011. They submitted their papers, and in 2012, their membership was examined. But the lone holdout, the lone ASEAN member state against Timor-Leste was Singapore. So the membership of Timor-Leste did not push through. But they, I think, would still apply in the future. Now, the move of Singapore, it may be read as in different ways. It may be read like Singapore did that just to spite Indonesia, to show Indonesia that it can still have clout. And then there's also the concern that Timor-Leste is not yet ready to join ASEAN, that it would be a demerit to ASEAN to achieve the security, political security community by 2015. But there are rumors circulating around that Timor-Leste after 2015 would actually be admitted to ASEAN. And in fact, just a related thing, just last week, we received a letter from the ASEAN Secretariat asking ISDS, our institute, if we would be willing to do a study on assessing the implication of Timor-Leste's membership to ASEAN, specifically on the political security dimension. And this is still in its planning stage. And if there is indeed a training component, we would also let ASEAN know. Because I think it's way back in 2009 when actually me and Palifki, as part of an ASEAN team, went to Timor-Leste to talk about, to train actually Timorese civil society representatives on SSR. If there are opportunities to train perhaps core security forces in Timor-Leste in various issues such as defense procurement, in this upcoming ASEAN Secretariat project, we would also let you know.